from the Networking Institute. I'm here in beautiful Blue Mountains just outside Sydney, and I'm catching up with an old mate. I was lucky enough to have lived and worked in Australia for 8 years with the Irish Trade Board. I got to know Chris, we became great buddies over a long period of time, and we've gone lots of holidays with our families together. Chris is actually the great-great-grandson of Charles Darwin, so he has a little bit of pedigree there. And he also, some years ago, approached me about his organization, the Darwin Challenge, and in particular, how to raise money. And I had developed an online training company in philanthropy and fundraising, and Chris did it. And he thinks he found it quite useful and quite impactful. So what today is about is actually having a conversation with Chris to find out what pieces of this worked, and what might also work for you and for other people. So what has he taken from the course that he can apply to a small non-profit in Australia that's trying to develop and grow money? Before we go anywhere, Chris, can you just give a sense of who you are, where we are, the organization, the Darwin Challenge, and where that came from?
So the Darwin Challenge inspires millennial women who want to reduce their meat consumption. So it's a little mobile app. So we started this little charity and realized pretty quickly that money was going to be our biggest challenge. I realized we were not raising enough money, and so I started looking for educational tools to help us demystify the process of fundraising.
So we teach that fundraising is not an art or a science, but it's a process. And if you follow this process, you'll be more successful than if you don't follow the process. But what was it that attracted you to this, and what was it that you learned in the process?
We were running out of money hard. We hired a fundraiser. We only had 4 months of money left. Unfortunately, she was really good, but unfortunately we didn't raise any money in that period, and we ran out of money. And then I had to say to everybody on the charity, either you can work for free or I can't pay you anymore. And luckily, everybody but 2 people stayed for free. Unfortunately, the fundraiser left. She couldn't work for free. So then I had this dilemma. I had to raise money. We couldn't afford to pay anybody, so I had to learn to do it myself.
So you did our online training course, the Philanthropy and Fundraising Training Course. What was it that changed then after that in terms of implementing what you picked up from it?
Well, you know, I think a lot of us, and I think a lot of people watching this probably know that we tend to do what we think we're good at. So I was doing what I was good at, and I was ignoring all the stuff that I was not good at. So I'm okay at presenting. So basically what I was doing is I was just going around presenting to lots of people. And I wasn't doing all the other stuff in the process, and I was surprised when I was not getting a very good hit rate. So often you're unconsciously incompetent. You know you're not doing something right, but then what is it you're doing wrong? So then I did the course, and what was so nice for me was it gave us steps. You know, first you do this, then you do that, and then you do that, and then you do that, and then you start pitching. Well, you start planning to pitch. You do your research into each of your potential donors, and I think that's what the really magnificent thing about the course is it just, for someone who doesn't know, you can follow a process and it'll work.
Yeah, and you know, we saw it as a set of building blocks, you know, and a journey, and we worked on the basis that nobody was born loving your organization. This is a learned experience, and you got to take people on a journey from total ignorance of you, your organization, what you stand for, what you're trying to achieve, to passionate zealotry, and that takes time. And that takes lots of moves, and it takes energy, and it takes enthusiasm, and sometimes takes some money to do that. But that is a journey. So have you examples of that where you met somebody, but it took maybe a year or 2 before you actually got that converted?
Absolutely. Well, I think most of our donors, and a lot of, I think, really small charities or NGOs tend to get most of their money from friends and people they already know.
Right.
So to be honest, that's what I've been doing so far. I am not a very good networker, and I know this is something I've got to learn to do, but I find it really awkward getting to know people. It's not a strength of mine, and so I haven't been doing it yet, but I know I've got to.
But you do come across as genuine and authentic, Chris,
well,
and I think
you're
kind of a little hard on yourself. All the research shows that the reason people give to a non-profit organization is the belief in the mission of the organization. The number 2 reason why people give is who asks. So I think you're just reinforcing that because you've gone to friends and family, people who know you and know you by reputation. But as you develop, and over the next number of years, and as you grow, you're going to have to get people who don't know you and don't know the organization. And I understand you've had, pretty extraordinary success with some at least one particular donor in the United States. So how did that come about?
Well, that's one of those bizarre stories which I don't think would happen very often, but it was just amazing. So Jack, my wife, went to America and met some people there, and then was knocked back on a pitch. But then she then smartly said, I think somewhere in your notes it says, even if you're knocked back, it's just don't take it as a no, never. This is just a start. And she said, do you know anybody else who might be interested? And they put us in contact with this amazing but anonymous American donor. And we don't even know his name. He wouldn't, when we Skyped him, we couldn't see his picture or anything. And he gave me $30,000 and another 20 if I became vegan, because he loves being, so I'm a sponsored vegan. So actually I wanted to become vegan anyway. So then I became vegan for him, and we built a relationship. I mean, I have done what you've been doing in a way. I mean, because I keep a track of all about in and out, and I keep it in one spreadsheet so I can see the communication and what he cares about. And so then we went back and pitched to him about a month ago, and he's a very strong character. So we had to. And I sort of got this sense that you don't prescribe what he's going to give. And he said, I will give you $150,000 of matching money if 3 people on your team become vegan. I nearly fell off my chair because we were hoping to get 50 at the most. I mean, another 50 would be amazing. So now we're now getting the 150 to match that. Now, would that have happened without Kingsley's course? It's strange. I've got a feeling I've changed so much. It's hard to know where me finishes and Kingsley's course starts, in that continuum, but I'm pretty sure things are going much better.
Well, I'm a fan of a concept I call funnels of serendipity, how random chance can change your life. One conversation, one introduction can change your life. But here's what's interesting. Serendipity doesn't happen lying in bed. It doesn't even happen sitting at your desk. Yeah. Serendipity happens when you're in motion. Some people think serendipity is like a bolt of lightning from the blue. It just comes out and strikes you. It's like winning the lottery. It's totally by chance. I actually think serendipity is like a gentle wind at your back, and it's always there, and every so often you can take advantage of it. I think in a way, your story just struck me as being an example of that. The other thing I was thinking, listening to you, is that you're talking about this very strong-willed donor in the United States. As you get closer to a major gift, you actually have no needs. He has needs, or she has needs. And that's kind of quite interesting, is to try and match what you're doing with their needs. And it sounded to me as if he was quite precise. He knew what he wanted to do, and you were fitting with what he required. It's an interesting sort of crossover, isn't it?
2 things were really important in that. I love the gentle wind at your back, because I think that a lot of people, when they're fundraising and you're small, it feels like you've got this blast of wind against you. The other thing from the course which I love is I remembered it, a bad day on the road is better than a good day in the office. Correct. Which I think is really nice. Correct. And again, that's another one which I've thought about. Just get out there. Just get out there, do the uncomfortable pitches. If you do, which is what we've been doing since the course, where really research what their needs are, identify their needs, identify how your product can service those needs, and just talk about their needs. And that works so much better, because you're not, as you said, you're not getting sort of sympathy donations, here's $500 and leave me alone. You're actually getting excitement donations where people are going, here's $10,000 and I might give some more.
What's interesting about philanthropy, my experience, is that people give to success, not failure. People give to strength, not weakness. The most successful fundraising machines in the world are the American university system, and the most successful in that is Harvard University, who have 40 billion in the bank and just raised 9.6 billion in a campaign. They set themselves a target of 5 billion, they raised 9.6. It really was extraordinary. But they know people want to invest in success. Put it the other way. Why should a donor give money to an organization like you when you say, if we don't get this money by Christmas, we're going to go out of business? They think you're a badly run organization. So it's this notion of being, putting across the success and putting across the impact of the work that you do is incredibly powerful.
There's a whole lot of competition out there.
Yeah.
And let's face it, someone like Greenpeace is always going to be more attractive than someone like us. Yeah. So somehow you've got to differentiate yourself from the competition, you've got to try and go, well, they are very impressive, but we do everything at a really cheap, our value for money is fantastic because most of us are not being paid.
People don't want to give you money to pay for wages, electricity, rent, that ho-hum sort of stuff. This is an emotional business. And the topic you're in and the area that you're working is a very emotional topic. It's very current. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. So the emotion is really important. I think you've got to find the emotion. And we're really lucky, and I think a lot of NGOs are lucky. We've got meat is impacting on health, animal welfare, environment and human rights. So we can then target, and I think I encourage all of your users to think about the different sectors you can target. Try and find out what it is they want to do with their money, very specifically. So I tend to ask, stuff like, what are the issues you really care about? Why do you care about them? What is the big donation you've given? What's the most successful donation you've ever given? And why was it the most successful donation? I've never done the same pitch twice.
Okay.
I've never do the same pitch twice because every single pitch is tailored to try and understand, let's say I'm pitching to you, to try and understand exactly what Kingsley wants. And that's another thing which we did, which I've never done before. You encourage people to develop a spreadsheet of all the potential people and look at ability to give, interests, and actually load them all. That was really useful.
We believe that for any non-profit, you need three things to successfully raise money. You need a great case, powerfully articulated. The second thing you need is a constituency. There's got to be a group of people who have an interest in what you're doing. I mean, if you're trying to set up the Taliban old people's home in the Blue Mountains, I don't think there's not much support for that,
Yeah.
And the third thing is you need leadership. You need leadership in your organization, as staff, you need leadership at a board level, and you need leadership at a donor level, so people who are willing to step up. So what's interesting is that in the non-profit world, in the United States, the UK and Australia, giving at the middle and lower levels is actually declining, and giving at the higher level is actually exploding in size. So just maybe to talk about the process a little bit. So we believed was that fundraising is 90% research. And research is not finding out what somebody will do, but finding out what somebody could do. So you're really looking for, have they the capacity and have they the propensity to do something great? Then it's about taking people on the journey I mentioned, from total ignorance to passion zealotry. And then there's this brutal moment, and I want to get your thoughts on this, is if you don't ask, you don't get. This moment of solicitation. So how did you, become proficient at and get, okay with asking?
Yeah, it's so true. And I think it's interesting you should say people don't want to give. And we had one person who's just going to lots and lots of meetings and building relationships, but never actually asking and being a bit surprised why no one ever actually gave any money. So I am probably a little bit autistic, which probably helps, as in, I just go, the vision, the mission, what we're doing is so important, I believe, that I'm just going to keep asking. And I was definitely encouraged by your concept of that you're not asking for yourself, you are giving them an opportunity. And that's a word I really picked up on from your course, and we've used it a lot, that you are giving them an opportunity. Reframe it all that, away from the, we're trying to raise some money. Just, here we are. I'm the best thing that's happened in your day, or about to happen. Yeah. So I think if you can do that. The other thing which I think is really useful, and I've tried to do it again from the course, when you ask, then stop talking. Don't say anything. And I think you've got a line. The next person who speaks loses. Which I think is really good, and it really was really super helpful. That
the fourth piece that we really focus on in the course is, we call it stewardship, which is like after sales service. And many non-profits do it, and including us in the early days, do this badly. In other words, we're poor at saying thank you, and the next time the donor ever hears from us again is when we're looking for more money. So we put in place a thank you strategy. We thanked people 5 different ways, just showing gratitude, showing that you care, constantly showing the difference and the impact the contributions are making. And we saw it as a life cycle. So is that your experience?
Oh, I'm so embarrassed as I hear you talk about this stuff. I mean, again, I think a lot of people listening to this, small organizations, huge, limited capacity, and we were not doing any stewardship at all. I remember reading it on your course, I was going, oh no, I haven't been doing that at all. I mean, basically what I tended to do was I tended to send an email, thank you so much, and then I'd get straight on to trying to find the next person. So where we were, well, it isn't that we were bad at it, we just didn't do it.
Yeah. It is quite simple, the whole thing. There's nothing, this is not, as I said, it's not rocket science, it's a process, and if you discipline yourself to follow the process and track it and keep awareness of all those different moves and what are the next steps, etc., you have a good chance of being successful.
Yep.
Thanks, Chris.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Loved it.
My pleasure. Really good to talk to you. Thank you. Well, thank you for the course.
Good-o. Thank you.